Well, hello, everyone. This is Pastor John here for another weekly installment of the story. Today I'll be covering chapter 9, and the title of this chapter is The Faith of a Foreign Woman, although it could be better stated as The Faithfulness of a Foreign Woman. The foreign woman's name is Ruth, and she is the daughter-in-law of an Israelite by the name of Naomi. Well, the chapter begins with a crisis. Naomi's husband, Elimelech, that's his name, Elimelech, was from Bethlehem, and he has taken her and their two sons, that is Naomi and their two sons, Kilion and Mahlon, to Moab. And Elimelech gets established there with his wife Naomi, and their two sons each marry a Moabite woman. One marries a Moabite woman by the name of Orpah, not Oprah, but Orpah, and the other woman is Ruth. And so what happens? The crisis is that Elimelech and his two sons, Mahlon and Kilion, they all die. And so all three of these women are now widows. So Naomi decides, I'm going to go back home. I don't have any means of support. I don't have a 401k. I don't have a Roth IRA. I don't have Social Security. So I need to go back to Bethlehem, which is where Elimelech and Naomi were from. And the property that we have there, I need to sell it in order that I can live, because I don't have any other means of sustaining myself. So she excuses her daughters-in-law, and they say, no, we're not going to leave. And then eventually Orpah does leave and goes back to her family to stay in Moab. But Ruth does not. Ruth remains faithful to her. She doesn't want to leave Naomi. And there is no benefit for Ruth in this. Naomi has no more sons. There's no way that this family can continue anymore. The family line is ended. She has no future. Ruth has no future with Naomi, and Naomi has no hope really, except to sell this property. And after that, pretty much that's the end of her life. But Ruth decides to stay with her and stick with her, and they travel together to Bethlehem in Israel. And when Naomi arrives, the people recognize her, and they call her Naomi. Hey, Naomi! And the whole town is excited. But Naomi tells them to call her Mara, which means bitterness. Okay, at this point we can see some comparisons that are starting to pop up and will be throughout this entire book to the life of Jesus. First, the family is from Bethlehem, which is house of bread, Bethlehem. That is where King David would eventually be born. And that's where Jesus, who was the descendant of King David, was born. And in fact, Jesus' mother, Mary, is a name that's derived from the word Mara, meaning bitterness. So there's some parallels here. But returning to this chapter in this book, it was harvest time in Bethlehem at the time that Naomi and Ruth arrive in Bethlehem. They were returning. And the people were harvesting barley. So Ruth decides to go into a field and pick up whatever the harvesters didn't pick up so that she could feed herself and Naomi. They needed immediate relief. She, by chance, right, picks the field that belongs to Boaz. Now, Boaz is a righteous man, and from pages 123 to 124 in your book, we see how he treats and how he instructs his workers. He seems very fair. He even says to them as he greets them, "The Lord be with you," which is extraordinary. Boaz then sees Ruth, and he's like, "Who is this person? Where'd she come from?" Etc., etc. And he turns to her and is very kind to her. And he shows himself to be a very godly man in that he doesn't take advantage of her in any way, and he protects her while she is doing this sort of follow-up harvesting with his harvesters. He blesses her for what Ruth did for her mother-in-law, Naomi. When Ruth returns home to Naomi, she tells her that she was working in Boaz's field. Naomi recognizes that this man is one of the guardian redeemers of the family, Elimelech's relative. And so he was expected to help or to rescue or to redeem the property of another family member who was in trouble, whoever that was. So Naomi directs Ruth to go back and to appeal to Boaz, to appeal to him to redeem Ruth and redeem, in fact, Naomi by buying this property that she needed to sell in order to survive as a widow. So, of the things that needed to be redeemed, first, Naomi needed to sell her property to have money to live on. Secondly, Ruth had no husband because she was a widow, so she needed to be redeemed. Third, Naomi had no son and no heir and no family line from here on out because it had come to an end. And so that family line needed to be redeemed and rebuilt, reconstructed. Boaz ultimately was the one who did all of this for Naomi and Ruth. He agrees to buy the property that it was Elimelech's. Then Boaz marries Ruth, Naomi's daughter-in-law, redeeming her from her widow status. And finally, Boaz and Ruth have a son, Obed, which restores Naomi's family line and gives her a part in eventually a long and illustrious family line. Yet, who was the redeemer in all of this? We focus on Boaz. Was it Ruth who faithfully served and loved her mother-in-law? Was it Boaz who fulfilled his responsibilities in both faithfulness and love? Was it Obed who would live well past Boaz and provide for his own mother, Ruth? And by the way, Boaz would become the grandfather to King David. So the family line would be redeemed. This entire book points to a redeemer who saves, marries, purchases, and provides for us. This is his family line. Who is this redeemer? It's Jesus. And he has come to redeem you, and he's come to redeem me, and he's come to redeem the world. If you find any other things that point to Jesus in this chapter, I think it's a great chapter. We don't ever read any sentence from Ruth in our lectionary throughout the Sundays in the year, so this is a great opportunity to just sit down and read through a whole book that speaks all about Jesus in this account. Let me know what you think and what you've learned, and blessings on the remainder of your week. Amen.